All right, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to implement a very simple page design. There's not a lot going on here. This is the page, and we're going to focus not on the header or the footer, just the parts in between. So this is going to be a really simple tutorial for people who are like looking to get started, to see how easily you can implement a simple page design from Figma, or like in my case, I've done it in Affinity Designer. And how fast can you implement that in Elementor? So I'm inside WordPress here. I just click add new, and then, so I'm going to call this about, and then just click edit with Elementor. It's going to take a while. Please note that I have Elementor Pro installed, but to follow this tutorial, you might not need a lot of Pro. You can just use the free version also. So the first thing I need to do is I need to hide this big about thing, because that's like the default setting that I've given for about screens. And I think I'm just going to click settings, and here you can see there's hide, and then that's the first thing that we need to do. Okay, that's taken care of. So the first thing I'm going to do is start by doing these two. So it says about me in this soft color, and then here's my story with a small shadow look there. It's just something I designed recently. And there's a light ribbon that goes all the way with a small 1 pixel background, 1 pixel border. Okay, so how do we do that? First, I click this and I create what's called a section. And I'm going to basically do this whole thing into a section. I'll show you how to make the text come out of the section. We're going to use something called negative margins. So I just set the background. So I select this by clicking these dots here, go to style, and then in the background, I have to select classic because it's just one color for now. And then here, I've already loaded up these colors, but in your case, if you're following this tutorial, you might not have. So you just have to click this and enter the color yourself. So here I've already stored all the important colors that I need. So you can see that's the light pink. So that's already done. Now I go to border, and then I'm going to create a solid border. And in the bottom, it's going to be 1, but all the rest, it's going to be 0. And you can see that's already there. And I'm not even sure this is 1, right? Because this is even smaller than 1. In that case, we can try 0.5, but first let's play around with 1. So and then that's going to be a dark pink color. And you can just click preview changes already. It'll save the whole thing and it'll load. And unfortunately, it's not showing up. I think it's because there's no content in between. So for now, I'll just drop a spacer. So now that the spacer is there, I think I should be able to just click preview again. And yes, the page is loading. We need another spacer to just give the gap in the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty section and put a spacer there. Because right now, I'm not able to clearly see that border. That border and this color are the same. So I'm just going to click preview again. And you can see it's pretty close to what I do, except I don't think it's the dark pink one. And the second thing is that I think it's 0.5. I wanted it to be subtle. So we go back to border. I select this. And then first thing is I change it to pink 1. Second thing is here, I change it to 0.5 just to see whether it actually works. I think it works. You can see that there's a beautiful line. So I think this section is done. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to include about me, and here's my story. So both of them seem sort of like headings. So I'm just going to drop the first heading, and now I can remove the spacer. So you can see on the right side, this is how everything is laid down. There's a column and there's a spacer, and then there's a heading. So I can just delete the spacer right here. Okay, it's gone. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do about me. Actually, it's here. Here's my story. Here's my story. Okay, and now I make it bold and I make it center aligned. There's a slight difference between the font. I'm not sure if you can notice. I can notice it. It's a semi-condensed, but for now, we're going to ignore that. This here's my story is actually halfway down. The first thing I want to do is I want to first set the right font size. So it's 96 here because it's double. I don't know why. I've been using Affinity Designer for a while. So here I know for a fact that it's supposed to be 48. Generally, I like to set everything in H2 tag. I don't like to use too many text styles, but in this case, I've not done that. And sometimes I make slight modifications. So if you don't want to be changing font sizes from everywhere, you can go ahead and use something called site settings. Okay, this is a pro feature. So obviously, if you have the free version, you won't be able to globally manage fonts and typography. But with the free version, you can still go ahead and change it however you want. So here, if you see, I've given it 36, and that's why it's 36 here. So I'll close this. For the free users, you can just go to style again and then typography. And here I'm just going to enter 48. So that's the number one thing. And then maybe I'll reduce the letter spacing just a little bit. And like I said, this is a slightly different font. That's why it's thinner. Once that is done, now I have center lined this, but technically this is not center line. This is from, I think there's no way to look at. Okay, that's 800 until 1973. So 1973 minus 800 is roughly 1173. So sometimes I don't do the design properly, so I can just assume it's 1170. So what's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this whole thing and then go to layout, and then the width is set to 1170. Okay, and then I'm going to make this left align. Okay, I forgot that it's half. So 1170 divided by 2 is 585. So that's pretty small. So let me do 585. Okay, there you go. So that's the number one thing, because I want this to be left aligned with the text here. Okay. And after that, let's move on to about me, right? So I think I'm going to use a normal text just to see if that actually works. But it looks like it's, I can't set any styles. So for now, I'm going to delete this and just try heading again, right? And here, I wonder, or maybe I could have done that. Forgive me for a minute. So if I go to style and you can see typography, I've already stored something called accent, right? So if I just choose that, it automatically changes to the accented text. So in that case, I don't have to use that as the heading. So here I can just change it to about me. Again, this is globally managed from site settings. In your case, what you would do is you would go to typography, choose your font here. In this case, I'm using custom fonts, which I'll cover in a different video, how you can set custom fonts for Elementor. So all you have to do is now set the right size and color. So here you can see it's 60, which means here I'm going to put 30. So again, in your case, you might not have to do this by tooth. So I'll just do about me, M is small letters. And now choose the color. Again, I'm going to just choose the color that I've already selected, or that, right? Okay. Now we need to start setting the right spacings so that things are looking just like what we see above. The first thing is I need negative margin on top. I'm going to remove the linking values together so that I can individually manipulate things. And I'm moving it up, 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 up until a point where I feel like, yes, that's the right thing. And then this, I'm going to select this advanced, again, remove the link values together so I can manipulate only the bottom and move it until the center, right? Now what's remaining is I'd like to just round it. It's just my OCD. I'd like to again reduce the top, but also maybe reduce the bottom for this one. So, okay, so that's as far as it goes. So the reason for that default spacing is something called as, let me just remove it here. There's also another place we can edit it. So if I choose this whole thing, and then if I manage to select this part, which this particular icon, which means it's a row and there's a one column in it by default. We're not saying columns, but there's always one column. You select that, and then you have something called widget space. So every control is a widget. And if you just put 0, so the default space between things already comes down. So you don't have to play with other things, right? I think that's pretty much it. And now I can manipulate this until it looks close to what I think it should look. And I'm also going to use negative top margin for this guy, maybe just -5. And finally, for this guy, I'm going to use negative left margin so that it's just slightly on this side. That's about 35. Okay, I think that's pretty much the beginning. And now you can notice that there is a big gap on the top, and that's my responsibility to leave. So what I'll do is I'll select this section. If you have navigation problems here, you can always use the side navigator, right? Or usually you can access the navigator from here, bottom left, and go to advanced, and then just use a top margin. So you remove this again, and then use probably, I try to start with 50. That looks pretty much like what I want, right? So just a small jump so that the attention comes down, right? It's not cluttered with the top part. So that's it. So that's already done. And the rest is pretty simple. But one thing we missed is the shadow for this. Okay. So you select this heading, and then you go to style, text shadow, enable it, and then remove all the blur, right? And then make it horizontal just a little bit. It's so subtle. I don't want it to overpower the readability. So for those reasons, I think I'm just going to use 4 or 5. 5 is good. And then the color, I'm just going to reduce it just using my eyes. I can also do it properly, which is the proper way to do it is to go to the layers and then choose the actual thing. So here I have FX, and then if you go to outer shadow, you can see the actual color. The opacity is actually 7%. The color is black. So I should just do that. So it's 0.06 here. Instead, I use 0.0. So that's 7% exactly. And that's where we start. All right. Now we have a new thing. We already had placed this section because we needed the gap, if you remember it properly. So I'm going to first throw in a text editor, and I'm going to leave the gap for now and just copy paste the first section text. So I'm going to copy, and then while pasting, be very careful to either do a command shift paste so that it just pastes the text. Otherwise, what happens is if you just press command V, it pastes with these invisible markups. And that's very important. Or you can just shift to text in this box and select everything and paste it. Then it works. So this is very important. Very small things, but makes a big difference. And you might be just breaking your head thinking what went wrong and things like that. Right. So I've put again 1585. There is still something missing because I think it could be the horizontal, or I know what it is, because there is always a default columns gap. So if you notice this column, there's a small gap on the side and this side. For now, we're going to ignore this because unless you are one of those people who want super pixel perfection, then I understand. In that case, you can just choose this and go to columns gap and do no gap. Best way to do this is to set it globally. There is a place where you can set this gap to nothing. But the problem is then editing becomes, it's really for the pros where you have to set the gap every time. You can't quickly put together a page with some default gaps coming all the time. It's a bit annoying. So that way, I think I prefer working with the default thing. All right. And let's fix the rest later. And you see there is a small picture here. So I'm going to show you how to use that picture. So first thing, I'm going to insert the image. I've already uploaded that image inside, and multiple times I reuse it. So you can see that's the image. And now I go to advanced, I go to transform, no, layout. And then first thing I do is I set the position to absolute, right? Now you can see this text is in front, this picture is in front of the text. And then I move it to the left side. And then I go to, I set an actual pixel width. That's approximately what I'm looking for. So something like this. And then vertically move it down. Okay. So hello. And you can start with that. The important thing you might want to do is you might want to set a Z index position, right? So right now on top, so if I put -1, it's a slight change, but you can see that the text is right now in front because everything has a Z index of 0. Okay. All right. So far, I hope you're following, and next steps are going to be pretty simple. So I'm going to do this. And then I need to bring in her picture, which I'm ready to upload the file that I have. So it's inside here. All right. Beautiful. Okay. So it's already here. And hereafter, I'm going to just repeat the same thing. So we drag. Usually I just duplicate this whole thing and you can pull it down. And here again, go to text, paste it. Do not do the other thing. And now I have to line break at my interaction. You can't line break here. Just remember that you can't line break here and it won't work. So what you should do is you should probably click here and then you can just do that. And here it'll insert, it converts the whole thing into a paragraph and automatically there is a line break. Okay. So that's a good thing. And once that's done, next we're going to do the same thing here. I think I'll just duplicate again and it's just easier to edit stuff this way. So I'll upload files again. Here it's family. There you go. Okay. So right now there's a caption. So we could have a caption and see how the caption actually shows up. So at this point, you can see it's the photo of me with my 4 children. Then there you go. So that's how the caption is shown. I've never edited the caption here, but you can see already here that there is a small editor here where I can edit the caption. So in this case, I could just say first thing is I'm going to set it to the actual font. So for this case, I go to caption. First, I'll set the typography to not text. Looks like I've not really set it up yet. Okay. So in that case, I could just, it's PT serif. And then I'll set the style to normal. And then it's not center align. Okay. So that's exactly what it looks like. Maybe there is a small amount of line spacing. I'm sorry, not letter spacing, line spacing. right? There is a slight amount of it. I like to use I think it's because it's a multiple of what is here. So it's 1.3 or 1.4 or 1.5. 1.5 looks accurate. All right, so that's it. So that's that part. And then we have to do these big things. So again, I'll quickly go forward and forward this. Okay, so now we need to put this big thing. So this we're going to do as a heading. So we put this here, and maybe I'll set this to H4, or let me try this actually. So I'll put a text editor, and then I really thought there was a place where I could set it up. Here there is nothing, so probably it's not possible. The only place is here. All right, there you go. So that's the block code, but there's no way to style that literally. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just use that styling for now, so that in web design it'll show up like that, and then I will just paste these things in between the block code. Okay, Zazzle has allowed me to focus on truly what I love about my business, creating gorgeous designs that honor my Catholic faith. So what do we do next? Next thing is we need to style this. So the first thing is it's actually not center aligned, it's left aligned. And then I need to choose the actual font. So it's Noto Serif display. So here you can go back to say Noto Serif display. Okay, so that's the first step. And the next thing is it's definitely bold, and then it's also italic. All right, and it needs to be big. Okay, so first I might try to do the padding 0 and the margin 0, and it doesn't work because I think something in the styling of block code is doing it, but I don't care right now. I think I'm going to try to fit it without problems. Okay. So I don't have to do any of this. So I'll try to increase. Okay. I think I like this even better than the original design I actually made. Okay. And then it's 32. So it's a standard font size that I use. Then I use dark pink. And finally, I'd like to reduce the letter spacing so it's more readable generally. So it doesn't have to be too much, but if you look at it, it should be readable without much of problems. Okay, so maybe 1.9 is too much, then the 1.8 is good. Okay, finally, I'll increase more so it looks well put together. It's 36 now. Okay, and now I have these quotes. These quotes are just images. Okay, so instead what we can do is we can use the icon thing from here. Okay, so I use this icon and then I say quote. This is a different style. So in that case, actually, I could use images. But for now, I think I'm just going to use this for the sake of this tutorial. And you can see it's actually the lightest pink, I think. It's not even it is the lightest pink. So I'll just use that. And then again, as always, we go to position, absolute, and it's disappeared. So because the color is so small, I'm just going to try and see, where did you go? Okay. It's here on the top. So the cool thing is that I can also pull it all the way here and I can just drop it there. It's cool in one way, but again, try to use things like this to a minimal. It's not good to have it too much, right? And then you can duplicate, which is a good thing because it just stays there. And now I can choose the other quote, right? So I could just place something like this. And then lastly, I definitely put it as I used it as an overlay, which means I again used the Z index to be -1. Same thing for this guy so that it doesn't clash with the text. At the same time, I can, in case I want to move it, I'll just click there and then try to use that. Okay, so that's another thing. I just want to use pixels, but perhaps, yeah, so it's stuck here. It just has a maximum of 1000. It can be mitigated because right now, this whole thing is one big section. So that's one of the reasons why we have this particular problem. So what we can do instead is sometimes you could just say, create a widget, and then you put the same numbers. And now I can simply drag and drop these things, these two icons and that text. So I'll just drag that into that particular section under that particular column. And even though visually there's not much of a difference, it actually makes a good amount of difference when you start editing these icons. So I'll put this icon here and I'll put this icon. Okay. Now, what's the good thing about it is the icon has gone too much down, but that's very easily fixable. So all I have to do is first put 0 and 0 here. So it'll come to the top section. So what's happening here is the whole absolute thing is relative. It's not a very good way to say it, but that's what it is. It's relative to the container that it's holding it. So who's holding this? It's this section, right? Right now, whatever you're saying it. So if I say 0, 0, it comes to the center of this, correct? So and that's all there is. There's nothing else to explain, I think. And then there's alignment center. That's why it's in the center. So if I say 0, 0, it's actually going to go to the top left corner because that's where the 0, 0 starts. Right? It's got to think with. You got to know how in web pages how you specify locations. The location 0, 0 usually starts in the top left, and in the x-axis it grows on the right side, in the y-axis it grows to the bottom. So in case somebody's watching this and you don't know that, then that's what's happening. All right, so let's go back and just fix this. Now, the good thing about this is that it won't fly too much, and I like to have this little 3D effect of the thing being behind. It's subtle, but it's what makes the difference, and say that, okay, I put some effort into making this stand out, and that's what I like about designs. Okay, we can always do something that's completely different. There you go. So that's done. And then now finally I have the same thing, which is not that hard, like you already know. So I'm just gonna use that, drop it here, say don't forget. Okay, and this I'll do the link later. And then the final thing is the signature. I think I've already used the signature, but it's just an image. I just exported the signature as the image. So you can see that it's right here. I'll first left align and then maybe use pixels again. Yeah, so something like this. As long as it looks crisp, it's fine. All right. So that's how fast you can do a page. That page is done. Now, the important thing is that you also need to optimize this for mobile. So I'm going to show that as the next part of this. So if you go back, the page is ready and everything looks pretty okay, except for there's no gap after this. So I'd like some gap after this, and there's too much gap here, I think. There's slightly too much more gap here. And also, I understand that the design I did was different, and I can actually show how to do that, right? So in case you want this to be sticking out, all you'll have to do is again use the negative left margin, right? So if I do, actually that's not, oh yeah, yes it is true. So if I do negative 50, for example, or 100, right? And then on the right side, I do another negative 100. That's pretty much it. It creates something like this. And then I could even do until I feel like it's properly aligned. There you go. So that's kind of what it is, right? But of course, I don't, it's sticking out too much. I wanted it to be slightly just subtle. So this is good. And then maybe I can go back and edit the typography so that it fits like this. Okay. Now, the reason there is space on top is simply because of this section. Because there's a section gap, and you can see below this, there's the default widget gap is playing over there. So in those cases, yes, it's annoying because you have to manually pull things up. So I think I'll just pull it by 20 first and see if that's okay. I usually do my squint test. So it's something I learned a long time ago, which is just put it like this and squint your eyes and see if everything is fine. It looks like it needs a little bit more, right? So first thing I also want to do is I want to fix these icons to match maybe the design itself, right? Or maybe now that I've figured out other ways, I just bring them up, right? And just put it here. Okay, well, that's actually okay, even though it's a little bit on top overlaid, but it looks good. There's like a small 10 maybe or 5, I don't know. Let's check. So now if I go out and select something else, scroll there, but you can bring it down. And now if I squint, it looks more nicer. So it was that 10 pixels again. So maybe there was a default 10 provided by the bottom section, and there was already 20 provided by the top section. Now I'm thinking, why did this be 10? This won't be 10. Or maybe there was a gap between. You see, that looks like a small gap, really small gap. So that's what was making it happen. All right. So now if I update, you can see, I thought it should have finished. Okay. It usually auto loads. So you can see, this is beautiful. I actually like that we took time to do this. So now it's done. Now for the big thing. Now I need to do this, make this mobile responsive. This is not a mobile first creation platform, even though I should probably try to do that. Overall, it's okay. It's not bad, except for a few things that I might need to fix, right? So I'm going to start from the bottom. Actually, it doesn't work like that. So the order is actually top to bottom, not bottom to top, I think. So first let's verify that. So first thing I need to do is, you can see you can select stuff here. And by default, the previous values are shown. Okay. And you can see it's linked for this. So I'm going to first take the link off. Sometimes you can just, oh, okay, it switches to the whole thing. Okay, so if I link and if I take everything off, it switches back to the default values. Okay, but if I unlink, everything comes off. So perhaps it's okay. I'll just do minus 30, which looks good. And then maybe bottom, I do minus 10 because in mobile, we don't want it to be too bad. Okay? And I just want it so that it looks a little bit stylish. And then finally, this guy, I think I'm just going to leave it like this. In case I don't like the size, I could always do that, right? I can just say, because it's mobile and I don't want it to be too much, I can actually change the text size. Okay. And here, because the bottom margin is not that much, now I can bring it and reduce it. So it doesn't have to be the same as previous thing, right? So that could be the mobile version, and maybe the bottom thing is too much. So I think that's good. About me, here's my story. And then there's a spacer here, which was good for the previous thing. I think I'm just going to remove that for now. And I'll show you what to do. So instead of the spacer, what we can do is we can just make use of the padding. So you take the linking things together, and padding, you just say perhaps something like 30, or how much did I design it here with? It looks like I wish this showed me the size, but it doesn't. But it's not 30 for sure. It's probably 60 or 70 or something like that, right? And now, of course, I'll have to go back and change this image, but that's okay. I'll just keep it there, okay? Now, let's check if everything is fine. Everything seems fine. Now let's go back here. So this is a great thing because in iPad, it looks like I don't need to do any changes, okay? So the only thing I need to do is in mobile. And even here, the image has gone away. And so there's like a extra, right? So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it inside. So there you go. I can even put it on the other corner, I think, in this case. Or I can do something like this. It's really up to, right? So I think I'm going to do something like this about my story, right? And next thing I want to do is here, right? With these icons and this text, I need it to be not so much of a negative margin. So that's the number one thing I need to do. First thing is just put everything together inside this. Maybe I can still use negative margin, but not so much. So I can say we don't care about the top. We care about the left and the right. So instead of minus 100, I put maybe minus 50. And then for the left, again, minus 50. That's too much. So let's try 20 and 20. That's nice. That's really nice. I am going to just stick to that. And then regarding the icon, I'm going to bring it in. There's a width. I don't know why it shows the width to be something like that. So I think if I do width custom, it just sticks to the current bounding box, which I like. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I see there is this extra thing. So I'm going to click custom and then again, bring it down, right? Slightly designerish way. And that's about it, okay? There is still this problem on the right side, which I think maybe it's a globally set up. Something is wrong sort of thing. Or the other thing could be just that this picture needs to be set to custom also. Okay. And then, so that's the width, which means now I have to go back and check if everywhere it's fine. Okay. In these cases, it has not changed the width. So I'll have to bring it back in. So that's something you can remember to set as you need to set it to custom, and so that it just takes the bounding box, right? So you don't have problem with something sticking outside on the right side. Okay. And finally, even for this, I'm going to use custom, and then I'm going to move it inside, right? If I want to get slightly modified, I could also go and play with things like rotation. I've done that multiple times. Or I can just use opacity. So it's just like subtle, I don't want it to really steal the show, and it's just there to support the whole page. So that way, I think everywhere it's going to be a little bit more subtle and things look more beautiful. And you can see the thing has come down already. There's not a lot of gap right now, but they're still there, especially on this. I'll have to find out. Oh, it's this. Let me fix that to that corner. That also. So I should have probably set it to custom in the desktop. So it starts to be, oh, there you go. So there's not a lot left. But I'm still wondering what is creating that. There's just like slightly annoying. Oh, it's gone. Oh, there is. It's just slightly annoying. Just a little bit of stuff that's done somewhere, but I'll probably fix that later. And if I find a solution, I'll post it. So for now, that's it. That's the update. That's the final page, completely mobile optimized and everything. And once the save is done, it'll reload here. So that's how you create a simple page in Elementor. You can just test it like this. You can see, yes, that annoying problem is still there. But I'll debug that and find out. At least on the desktop, it doesn't happen. It only seems to happen after this breakpoint. So that's good. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, don't forget to like, comment, share this. And you can comment any questions or something that you want support with. I'll be happy to put this. Okay. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye-bye.